Have you ever wondered what happens inside you when you decide to walk away from someone? I'm not just talking about the physical moment when you create distance, but about that profound act of freeing yourself from what no longer resonates with you, from what, in some way, has been holding you back. Carl Jung, a visionary of the human mind, left us teachings that illuminate this process and transform it into something greater, something deeply significant. Walking away isn't simply saying goodbye. It's much more than that. It's an act of courage, a declaration to the universe that you are ready to prioritize your peace, your authenticity, and your true self. But taking that step doesn't come without challenges. Deep within your unconscious, a transformation begins to take shape. It's as if something inside you awakens and whispers, "It's time." And although this decision can feel liberating, it also brings doubts, fears, and sometimes a momentary loneliness that seems hard to bear. Jung taught us that these emotions are not mere coincidences. They are reflections of a much bigger process, a dialogue between who you believe you are and who you truly are. When you decide to walk away, you are breaking a pattern, severing a connection that may have been feeding aspects of yourself that you'd rather not confront. But here lies the true power of this decision. When you choose to distance yourself from what drains you, you're not just gaining space. You're creating the conditions for something far better to flourish in your life. Have you noticed how, after walking away from certain people, you begin to feel a peace you didn't even realize you needed? It's as if, by letting go of that relationship, you also release a weight you had unknowingly been carrying. What you might not realize is that this act also profoundly impacts those on the other side. Your departure, no matter how simple it may seem, can be an earthquake in their internal world. Jung would call it a moment of confrontation, a mirror reflecting truths that many would rather ignore. That is the magic and the challenge of these kinds of decisions. When you walk away, you're not just choosing for yourself. You're leaving a mark on others, a conscious or unconscious call for them to look within. And here's the secret. Not everyone will be ready to face it. Some will try to hold on to you, manipulate you, make you feel guilty. But remember, that doesn't speak about you. It speaks about their own shadows, their own fears of losing control or facing what your departure represents. The hardest part about walking away isn't the physical distance. It's the emptiness that remains. That space that used to be filled with conversations, shared energy, and habits that, though toxic, still felt familiar. Jung taught that emptiness is not something to be feared. On the contrary, it is a sacred place, a blank canvas where we can rebuild, rediscover, and most importantly, reconnect with our most authentic essence. The real challenge is resisting the temptation to fill that void immediately. Because let's be honest, it's easier to seek a new relationship, a new circle, or even any distraction rather than face yourself. But this is where transformation happens. Jung teaches us that by confronting that emptiness, we discover who we truly are. It is an uncomfortable process, yes, but also profoundly liberating. When you take that step and walk away, you're not just creating physical distance. What's truly happening is that you're drawing a line between what you deserve and what you have allowed until now. It is a revolutionary act for your soul, a clear message to your unconscious that says, "My needs matter. My peace matters. My truth matters." But this message isn't just heard by you. Others feel it too, especially those you are walking away from. They won't always understand it. In fact, their reaction will often be to cling to you, not because they need you, but because you force them to face something they'd rather not see. Jung called this projection. Everything we refuse to accept about ourselves, we project onto others. So, when you choose to let go, your decision becomes a mirror. It reflects their own insecurities, fears, and voids. It is not you who wounds them. It is their own internal struggle becoming more visible. Your absence. This is where inner work becomes crucial. Because while they deal with their projections, you also face your own. It's easy to fall into guilt, into the fear of having made the wrong decision. But Jung would remind us that this is a moment for introspection, to observe your own patterns and discover which parts of yourself have been silenced, repressed, or even sacrificed in those relationships. Often, what we fear most is not the distance itself, but what we uncover about ourselves when we take it. Because the truth is this: we don't always choose to surround ourselves with the best people for our well-being. Sometimes, we attract what we believe we deserve at that moment, what resonates with our deepest wounds. And when you decide to walk away, you're breaking not just a bond with someone else, but also with those wounds that have shaped your choices until now. Have you ever felt that mix of relief and uncertainty after letting go of a relationship? That's your psyche adjusting, reorganizing, finding a new balance. According to Jung, this process is like a symbolic death. You let a part of yourself die, the part that was trapped in old patterns, to make way for a rebirth. And though it's painful, it's also profoundly transformative. In the emptiness that remains, you begin to notice something magical. New ideas, new interests, and most importantly, new people start entering your life. People who don't demand that you change, who don't try to mold you, but who accept you exactly as you are. These connections that seem to appear out of nowhere aren't coincidences. Jung would call them synchronicities, signs that you are aligned with your essence, that you are on the right path. But here's the key. For these synchronicities to occur, you must be willing to let go completely. Not just physically, but also emotionally and energetically. You must stop looking back. Stop trying to justify your decision or seek external validation. Because the truth is, you don't need others to understand your choice. It is enough that you understand it, that you recognize you are choosing your well-being over any external expectation. As you move forward, something profound begins to change within you. That inner voice that once whispered now starts to speak with more clarity. You become more aware of your boundaries, of what you truly value, and of what you are no longer willing to compromise. This doesn't mean you become insensitive or selfish. It means you begin to prioritize from a place of self-love, from a place where you understand that taking care of yourself is not just necessary, but essential. The impact of this transformation is not limited to you. The people who remain in your life feel it too. Your authenticity, your clarity, and your renewed energy inspire those who are ready to grow with you. And those who are not, they simply drift away. Not because you reject them, but because they no longer resonate with the person you are becoming. When you start living from this place of authenticity, something incredible happens. Your energy shifts, and with it, everything around you. Jung spoke of the power of aligning with your true self, of connecting with what he called the self, the deepest, most authentic part that lives within all of us. When you decide to prioritize yourself, you are sending a clear signal to the universe. I am ready to receive what I truly deserve. This alignment not only attracts the right people, but also filters out everything that is not in harmony with you. It's as if life itself begins to work in your favor. The relationships that once seemed impossible to leave behind start to fade, not with conflict, but with a peace that once felt unattainable. It is at that moment when you realize that the greatest gift you can give yourself is allowing yourself to be who you truly are. But how can you recognize if you are living authentically? Jung would tell us that an authentic life is not measured by how many people accept or approve of you, but by how you feel about yourself at the end of the day. If you are surrounded by people who constantly make you feel like you need to change, that you are not enough, or that you have to hide parts of yourself to fit in, that is a clear sign that something is out of alignment. The real challenge lies in learning to let go with love, not with resentment. Letting go does not mean rejecting or despising others. It means being grateful for what was, acknowledging what you learned, and understanding that sometimes the greatest act of love you can offer is to release. Release others from your expectations, and free yourself from the weight of relationships that no longer nourish you. In this process, it is normal for doubts to arise. We have been taught that distancing ourselves can be selfish or insensitive, but Jung had a different perspective. For him, taking care of your soul, your psyche, is not just right? It is a responsibility. If you are not well with yourself, how can you expect to give your best to others? If your energy is drained, if your light dims from trying to sustain relationships that do not nurture you, then you are not truly living. You are merely surviving. There is incredible power in recognizing your own boundaries. Jung described it as an act of integration. It is not about building walls, but about creating bridges where there was once chaos. It is about understanding that saying no is not an act of rejection, but one of affirmation. You affirm who you are, what you value, and what you need to flourish. And when you do, something beautiful happens. The people who truly matter, those meant to walk alongside you, understand this. They do not try to change or hold you back. They support you, celebrate you, and grow with you. Of course, not everyone will be ready to accept your transformation. There will be those who question your decisions, those who try to make you doubt yourself. But this is where true strength lies, in not allowing external opinions to dictate your path. Jung taught us that the only approval that truly matters is the one that comes from your own heart, because, at the end of the day, you are the one who lives with the consequences of your choices, not others. As you continue forward, you begin to notice that life feels lighter. You no longer feel the need to explain your decisions or justify your choices. You simply live, trusting that the path you are building is the right one for you. This level of confidence does not arise overnight. It is the result of deep inner work, of facing your shadows, listening to your intuition, and consciously choosing what elevates your soul. The true gift of this process is not just the peace you find, but also the freedom, a freedom that goes beyond external circumstances. It is the freedom to be yourself, to live without fear, to embrace every part of you, even those you once considered imperfect or inadequate. Because when you integrate all parts of yourself, you realize that you do not need to be perfect to be whole. You are already enough just as you are. This transformation does not only change how you see yourself, but also how you relate to the world. When you choose to let go of what no longer resonates with you, you are making room for new things to arrive, healthier relationships, unexpected opportunities, and, most importantly, a deeper sense of purpose. Carl Jung would say that you are allowing the unconscious to work in your favor, synchronizing your life with the possibilities that were always there, but that you could not see because you were trapped in patterns that kept you from moving forward. Have you noticed how, when you let go of something that once seemed essential, things start falling into place in ways you never imagined? It's as if the universe responds to your decision to release, sending you signals, people, and experiences that validate your new path. This is not a coincidence. Jung called it synchronicity, the mysterious connection between external events and your inner world. It is proof that when you align with your essence, everything around you also begins to align. However, this does not mean the journey will always be easy. There will be days when you feel nostalgia, doubt, and even fear that you made the wrong decision. But these feelings are not signs that you should turn back. They are part of the reconstruction process. It's like remodeling a house. First, you have to tear down walls, face the dust and chaos before you can create a new and beautiful space. Jung would remind us that this chaos is not something to fear. It is a fertile ground where true transformation can take root. When you decide to prioritize something deeper, something begins to unfold. Your dreams, the ones you may have buried, start resurfacing. Maybe you always wanted to pursue something you were passionate about, but the expectations of others led you down a different path. Or perhaps you felt that you weren't good enough to chase your goals. This is the moment when those limiting beliefs begin to crumble. Because by letting go of what doesn't belong to you, you are also releasing the fears and doubts that others projected onto you. One fascinating thing Jung taught is that the unconscious doesn't just store our shadows and fears. It also holds our greatest potential. Within you, there are talents, ideas, and abilities you have yet to explore. Not because they don't exist, but because you hadn't created the space for them to emerge. When you choose to live in alignment with your authenticity, those parts of you start to manifest in ways you never imagined. It's as if by releasing the old, you are igniting a light that illuminates everything that was once hidden. This process also teaches you something valuable. You don't have to do it alone. Jung deeply believed in human connection and how our relationships can be a source of support and growth. But these connections must be genuine, built on mutual respect and acceptance of who you truly are. When you surround yourself with people who celebrate your authenticity instead of trying to change you, you discover the true power of human relationships. It's important to remember that this journey is not about eliminating everyone from your life. It's about discernment, about consciously choosing who aligns with you and who does not. The relationships that truly matter are the ones where you can be yourself. Without fear, without pretense, without feeling like you have to prove your worth. Jung said that authentic relationships not only nourish our soul, but also push us to grow, expand, and become the best version of ourselves. As you move forward, you will realize something powerful. The peace you were searching for outside has always been within you. You don't need others to complete you, because you are already whole. You don't need external validation, because your worth does not depend on anyone's opinion. This is the greatest gift you can give yourself. The freedom to be who you are, without asking for permission, without apologies, without fear. Maintaining this authenticity in your daily life may seem challenging, especially when the world around you operates on superficiality, expectations, and conformity. But here's the key. Living authentically does not mean being perfect or having all the answers. It means choosing each day to align with who you truly are, even in the midst of uncertainty and external pressures. Jung taught us that the greatest enemy of our authenticity is not others. It is our own shadows, those parts of ourselves we fear to face, the ones we have repressed because they don't fit the image we want to project. But here lies the true power. When you begin to integrate those shadows, they no longer control you. Instead of sabotaging you, they become a source of wisdom and strength. A clear example of this is how we react to the judgment of others. When you live from your authenticity, there will inevitably be people who don't understand it or even criticize you. But those criticisms can only affect you if they touch something within you that you haven't accepted. If you've made peace with your shadows, those words lose their power. Not because you've become insensitive, but because you recognize that what others say about you has more to do with them than with you. The next step on this journey is learning to set boundaries. This doesn't mean closing your heart or distancing yourself from everyone, but rather being clear about what you allow in your life. Carl Jung said that our relationships are a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. If others treat you with disdain or make you feel less than, it's a sign that there are still parts of you that need love and acceptance. Setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It's an act of respect, both for yourself and for others. Imagine your energy as a garden. Every relationship, every interaction, is a seed you plant. Some seeds bloom, bringing beauty and joy into your life, while others can turn into weeds, draining your energy and robbing you of space to grow. Learning to tend to your inner garden is essential to maintaining your authenticity. This means surrounding yourself with people who nourish your soul, who celebrate your growth, and who are willing to walk with you, not behind or ahead, but by your side. Another crucial aspect is listening to your intuition. In our society, this inner power is often underestimated, but Jung considered it one of the most valuable tools for navigating life. Your intuition is that quiet voice that guides you toward what is true for you. Sometimes it manifests as a sense of peace. Other times, as a subtle discomfort that warns you when something is out of alignment. Listening to it requires practice and trust, but the more you do, the stronger it becomes. Authenticity also connects you with your purpose. Jung believed that we all have a unique calling, something only we can bring to the world. But to discover it, you need to free yourself from distractions, from the expectations of others, and from the limiting beliefs you accumulated throughout your life. When you do, you begin to notice patterns in the things that ignite your passion, in the moments that make you feel truly alive, and in the ideas you can't ignore. That is the universe speaking to you, showing you your path. As you progress in this process, you'll notice a subtle but profound shift in how you experience life. The small things that once went unnoticed start to hold deeper meaning. A conversation with a friend, a moment of peace in nature, even an unexpected challenge. These moments become opportunities to grow, to learn, and to connect with yourself and others. It's as if everything in your life suddenly takes on a new sense of purpose. This transformation also has a greater impact than you might imagine. When you choose to live from your authenticity, you inspire others to do the same. You don't need to give speeches or convince anyone. Your example is enough. The people around you will begin to notice the change in you, your clarity, your peace, your renewed energy. And while not everyone will be ready to follow your path, some will be. You will be a light in their lives, proof that it's possible to live with purpose and fulfillment. When you live from your authenticity, a shift occurs in the dynamics of your relationships. You no longer seek others' approval to validate who you are. Instead, you become someone who naturally inspires respect and admiration, not because you seek it, but because your energy radiates confidence, clarity, and peace. Carl Jung would say this happens because you have integrated what he called the self, that essential core of your being that harmonizes your conscious and unconscious mind. As this integration deepens, you begin to see the world with new eyes. The experiences that once disturbed you lose their grip on you. Instead of feeling trapped in external conflicts, you start seeking the inner lessons that each situation brings. It's a subtle but transformative shift. You stop reacting to life and begin responding from a place of calm and wisdom. This new perspective does not mean that life becomes perfect or that challenges disappear. In fact, sometimes these challenges intensify because living from your truth inevitably leads you to question systems, relationships, and structures you once took for granted. Jung taught us that this process is like clearing away what no longer serves to make space for something more authentic and aligned with you. Something fascinating is how the people around you react to this transformation. Some will be drawn to your renewed energy, seeking to understand how you have achieved that peace you now radiate. But others might feel uncomfortable because your authenticity confronts them with the areas of their own lives they have neglected. This is not something you should take as a personal attack. On the contrary, it is a sign that your process is generating a profound impact, even beyond what you can see. At this point, maintaining your focus becomes crucial. The external noise can be tempting. People trying to convince you to change, to go back, to reconsider your decisions. But this is where your connection with your intuition, that inner compass that never fails, becomes your greatest ally. Jung said that intuition is not just an instinct. It is the voice of your unconscious guiding you toward what is in harmony with your true purpose. As you move forward on this path, you will likely begin to notice a curious phenomenon. The doors that once seemed closed start to open. New opportunities, connections, and experiences begin to flow toward you with an ease that once seemed impossible. This is neither magic nor coincidence. It is a result of living in alignment with yourself. When you stop fighting against what does not resonate and start acting from your authenticity, you create an energetic field that attracts what you need to thrive. It is important to remember that this journey is not linear. There will be days when you feel strong and unstoppable, and others when doubts return. But even in those moments, remember that the simple act of choosing yourself is already an act of bravery. You do not need to have all the answers today. The only thing you need is the willingness to keep walking, to keep exploring, and to keep trusting that you are exactly where you need to be. Over time, you will realize that this transformation has not only changed your life, but also the lives of those around you. Your relationships begin to reflect the quality of your energy. Those who remain by your side do so because they are aligned with you, not because they need something from you. And those who drift away are not a loss but a release, a reminder that not everything or everyone is meant to stay with you forever. As this journey toward your authenticity progresses, you realize something essential. What you once considered chaos, you now see as a necessary part of your growth. The relationships you let go of, the situations you left behind, and the challenges you faced were not obstacles, but lessons that prepared you to be who you are now. Carl Jung said that life is not about avoiding suffering, but about finding meaning in every experience, even in the most difficult moments, and that is exactly what you are doing by choosing your truth. This path not only transforms your relationship with yourself, but also with the world around you. When you decide to live from your authenticity, you become a beacon, an inspiration for others. You may not notice it at first, but there are people watching your evolution. People who need that reminder that it is also possible for them. Your courage in choosing yourself shows them that there is another path. One where peace and purpose are not distant dreams, but achievable realities. And this is where your impact expands. Every decision you make, every step you take towards your authenticity, creates a ripple effect. It will inspire others to reflect, to question themselves, and perhaps to make their own transformative decisions. That is the beauty of this journey. It not only changes your life, but also touches the lives of those around you in profound and meaningful ways. Now, I want to invite you to take the next step. If this message resonated with you, if something within you stirred while listening to these words, do not ignore it. This could be the beginning of a change that transforms your life. But you do not have to do it alone. Share this video with someone who you feel needs to hear it. Someone searching for answers or struggling with similar doubts. Never underestimate the power of a word, an idea, or a message shared at the right moment. It could be exactly what that person needs to take a turn on their path. Let me know which part of this message touched you the most. What reflection stayed with you? What decision are you ready to make? Leave your comment below. I want to read your story, your thoughts, your dreams. Your words not only inspire me to continue creating content like this, but they also help this message reach more people. Our community is what keeps this conversation alive, what amplifies this message and brings it to those who need it most. If you have not yet done so, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss any of our upcoming videos. Every interaction, every comment, and every subscription is not just support for the channel. It is a way to expand this message and build a community where knowledge and authenticity are at the center. Together, we can create a space where more people discover their true potential and find the tools to live in alignment with their truth. Change begins with you, but it does not end there. Every small act, every decision, has the power to transform not only your life, but also the world around you. Thank you for being here, for listening, and most of all, for taking the first step toward the life you have always deserved. See you in the next video. Be authentic, be brave, and never stop seeking your truth. Let me share something with you that might completely shift your perspective. But first, let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself lost in thoughts about someone, even when you were certain you had moved on? It happens in quiet moments. When you're lying in bed at night, when a familiar song plays, or when an unexpected sense stirs an emotion you weren't prepared for. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, like a faint whisper in the back of your mind. But it lingers, persistent. Maybe you tell yourself it's just nostalgia, that it doesn't really mean anything. Maybe you try to brush it aside, burying it under distractions, hoping that one day you'll wake up and they'll be gone from your thoughts. And yet, despite all your efforts, they remain. It's almost as if their presence has nothing to do with them at all. Carl Jung believed that nothing in the unconscious mind happens randomly. Thoughts don't simply appear without reason. If someone continues resurfacing in your mind, it's because your subconscious is trying to tell you something. That person isn't just a memory. They're a symbol, a representation of something much larger than themselves. The unconscious is a vast and intricate landscape filled with every experience we've ever had, every wound, every joy, every unresolved emotion. Some things get neatly stored away, while others, especially those with real weight, find ways to resurface again and again until we finally pay attention. Maybe you believe that if you had closure, these thoughts would disappear. Maybe you think that if you distract yourself enough, you'll eventually be free. But what if I told you that the more you try to silence them, the louder they become? Jung believed that the things we resist the most are often the very things that persist, that the mind does not let go of what it still needs to understand. So, the real question isn't, why am I still thinking about them? But rather, what part of myself is being reflected in them? Because sometimes, the people who occupy our thoughts the most are not just people. They are mirrors, showing us something we have yet to recognize within ourselves. And this is where everything begins. Think about this for a moment. What if the reason you can't stop thinking about them has nothing to do with them at all? What if they are merely a reflection, an echo of something within you, something your mind is trying to make sense of? Jung believed that we don't just see people for who they are. We see them through the lens of our own experiences, wounds, and unspoken desires. In other words, we project parts of ourselves onto them, often without realizing it. Projection is one of the most powerful psychological forces shaping human relationships, influencing not only how we see others, but also how we understand ourselves. This happens when we take something buried deep within us, an insecurity, an unfulfilled need, a suppressed aspect of ourselves, and unconsciously project it onto someone else. We believe we are fixated on a person, but in reality, we are obsessed with what they represent. It's not just about them. It's about what they awaken inside us. Have you ever admired someone so intensely that you felt drawn to them in a way that seemed almost beyond your control? It could be because they embody something you have denied in yourself, some part of you that you buried, silenced, or ignored. Maybe they carry a confidence you secretly wish you had. Perhaps they live with a sense of freedom and authenticity that you long for, but have never allowed yourself to embrace. And so, your mind fixates on them, not because they hold the answers, but because they remind you of something missing within you. Then, there is the other side of projection, the shadows, the aspects of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge, the wounds we are unwilling to confront. Sometimes, the people who occupy our thoughts the longest are the ones who have hurt us the most. We replay conversations, relive the pain, analyze every detail as if searching for something we overlooked. But Jung would tell you that this fixation is not about them. It's about you. It's about the wound that was exposed, the fear that was triggered, the unresolved part of you that surfaced. And until you recognize it for what it is, your mind will keep circling back, trying to solve a puzzle it doesn't yet understand. So ask yourself, what does this person represent to you? What qualities do they possess that stir something deep inside you? What emotions do they bring to the surface? Because the truth is, the thoughts won't stop until you stop looking outward and start looking within. The person you can't stop thinking about is just a mirror, and the reflection is trying to show you something vital. And here's where it gets even deeper. Because some of these attachments, these persistent thoughts, go beyond simple projection. They are tied to something greater, something that has shaped your relationships long before you ever met this person. This is where we begin to uncover the hidden forces of archetypes, the universal patterns that dictate who we connect with and why. Not all thoughts are just thoughts. Some of them run deeper, tracing back to patterns older than you can remember. Have you ever wondered why certain people leave such a lasting impact on you, while others fade into the background without a second thought? Why some connections feel almost destined, as if they were meant to happen? Carl Jung believed that our deepest emotional bonds are not mere coincidences. He argued that these attachments are not just about the individuals themselves, but are shaped by universal patterns buried deep within the human psyche. These patterns, known as archetypes, act as invisible blueprints that influence how we perceive the world, how we love, and how we form connections. They are silent forces pulling us towards certain people while pushing us away from others. Among these, the most powerful are the anima and animus, the unconscious feminine within the male psyche, and the unconscious masculine within the female psyche. When someone keeps resurfacing in your mind, it may be because they have awakened this deep and hidden part of you. Think about the people you have felt the strongest attraction to. Do they follow a pattern? Do they share certain traits or evoke similar emotions? This is not just a random occurrence. Your unconscious mind has been shaping your attachments long before you were even aware of it. Some individuals embody the qualities you subconsciously seek, the energy that feels familiar. Others bring to the surface unresolved wounds, buried conflicts, or deep-seated fears. This is why certain people linger in our minds long after they have left our lives. It is not just their presence that affected us, but what they triggered within us. Jung believed that love and obsession often have little to do with the actual person we fixate on, and everything to do with what they represent for us. That is why some connections feel inexplicably powerful, almost mythical, as if they carry a significance beyond our understanding. And perhaps, in a way, they do. Because whether we realize it or not, we are all searching for something in others. Wholeness, understanding, healing. But there is another side to this. Sometimes, these attachments are not about what we need, but about what we lack. The people who consume our thoughts may symbolize the aspects of ourselves we have yet to embrace, the strength we have denied, the confidence we never claimed, the love we never fully gave to ourselves. Until we recognize this, our minds will continue to cling to them, trying to make sense of something that was never really about them in the first place. Yet, beneath archetypes and attachments lies something even deeper, unhealed wounds, silent fears that shape our emotions, and subconscious patterns that keep us trapped in the past. Until we confront these wounds, we will remain bound to the ghosts of our own minds. Until we confront the real reason why certain people linger in our minds, we will continue searching for answers in all the wrong places. Some thoughts don't just linger. They grip us, pull us back to places we thought we had left behind. No matter how much you try to move on, it feels like an invisible force keeps you tethered, keeps you questioning, keeps you remembering. But here's something most people don't realize. The reason you can't stop thinking about them has less to do with who they are and more to do with what they triggered inside of you. Carl Jung believed that the things we try hardest to suppress are the very things that end up controlling us. These people didn't just appear in your life randomly. They awakened something that has been buried within you for a long time. Maybe it was a fear of abandonment. Maybe it was a wound of rejection. Maybe it was a deep longing for validation that you didn't even realize was still there. And when someone activates that part of you, when they bring an old wound to the surface, your mind clings to them. Not because they are special, but because your psyche is trying to heal. Think of it this way. When a physical wound is left untreated, your body keeps sending pain signals to let you know something isn't right. The same happens with emotional wounds. If you can't stop thinking about someone, it's because there is a part of you that is still hurting. Maybe they left without an explanation, and your mind keeps replaying everything, searching for closure. Maybe they made you feel unworthy, and now you're stuck in a cycle of trying to prove something, not just to them, but to yourself. Maybe they reminded you of something you've been running from for years. The mind doesn't hold on to people. It holds on to unresolved emotions, unspoken words, unfinished pain. And until you address the root of it, your thoughts will keep circling, trying to make sense of what your heart still doesn't understand. Jung would tell you that the answer isn't in obsessing over the person, but in turning inward, tracing the pain to its source, understanding why this particular wound exists, and finally giving yourself what you have been seeking from someone else. So, what is it? What is the wound beneath these thoughts? Is it a longing for connection? A fear of being forgotten? There is a part of you that you never fully reveal, a side that remains hidden even from yourself. And until you stop asking why certain people or situations won't leave your mind and start asking what within you needs healing, those thoughts will never truly fade. Here's the hard truth. Sometimes, the person you can't stop thinking about is merely a distraction from the real work that needs to be done. And that work isn't about them. It's about you. Because the moment you face the wound, the moment you realize it was never really about that person in the first place, is the moment you begin to reclaim your mind, your heart, and your sense of peace. But before you can let go, before you can truly free yourself, there is something even more powerful you must understand. The shadow. The part of you that you have been avoiding. the hidden force that shapes not just your thoughts but your entire life. There is a version of yourself you don't fully know, a side that has been pushed away, ignored, buried beneath distractions, relationships, and endless thoughts about people who should no longer matter. Carl Jung called this the shadow self, the hidden side of you made up of everything you have denied, rejected, or failed to embrace. Whether you realize it or not, this shadow is shaping your emotions, your thoughts, and yes, even your attachments to people you can't seem to forget. What if the person who won't leave your mind isn't there because you love them or because they are special, but because they are revealing something about yourself that you refuse to see? Jung believed that the relationships that affect us the most deeply, the ones that leave lasting impressions, the ones we obsess over, are often the ones that bring us face to face with our own unconscious. Sometimes, what keeps you hooked on someone is not their presence, but the way they awaken a part of you that had been hidden for far too long. Have you ever noticed how certain people evoke extreme emotions within you? One person can make you feel insecure, abandoned, unworthy, or desperate for validation. Another can make you feel alive, inspired, or as if you are finally understood. The reason they have such a powerful effect on you isn't because of who they are, it's because of what they reflect back to you. They expose something inside you, something that has always been there, waiting to be seen. Maybe the person you can't stop thinking about represents a trait you have suppressed. Perhaps they embody freedom, confidence, or emotional depth, qualities you have long suppressed within yourself. Maybe they expose a wound you never wanted to admit was still open. This is why certain people seem to haunt us, because they force us to confront what we have been avoiding. Jung believed that unless you integrate your shadow, unless you acknowledge and accept the hidden parts of yourself, you will remain trapped in cycles of longing, attachment, and fixation. Your unconscious will continue placing mirrors in front of you, using others as reflections, until you finally recognize what it is trying to reveal. So, ask yourself, what is this person showing you about yourself? What is it about them that triggers such an intense emotional reaction in you? What part of yourself have you been unwilling to face? Because the moment you stop fixating on them and start focusing on what they represent within you, everything changes. But this is where true freedom begins. Understanding your shadow is only the first step. Once you recognize what has been hidden, you must learn to release its hold over you. And this is where the journey toward individuation begins. The path to truly reclaiming your mind, your emotions, and your sense of self. If you have come this far, you have likely realized something profound. The person you cannot stop thinking about is not just a person. They are a symbol, a reflection, a messenger of something buried deep within you. And now that you have seen the projection, the archetypes, the wounds, and the shadow, it is time to ask the real question. How do you finally let go? Carl Jung believed that true healing comes through a process called individuation, the journey of becoming a fully integrated and self-aware individual. Individuation is not about forgetting, suppressing, or forcing yourself to move on. It is about understanding why this person held such power over you in the first place, and reclaiming that power for yourself. Letting go is not an act of resistance. It is an act of understanding. Most people try to move on by distracting themselves, jumping into another relationship, convincing themselves they no longer care. But thoughts do not vanish simply because you ignore them. If someone still occupies your mind, it means a part of you is still entangled with them. The only way to truly free yourself is to extract the lesson your unconscious is trying to teach you. Perhaps they awaken a longing within you, a desire for love, validation, or connection that you have not yet fully given yourself. Maybe they exposed a wound you never wanted to face. Maybe they embodied something you've been suppressing, a part of you that has been waiting to be acknowledged. The key to letting go is not to push these realizations away, but to integrate them. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that you projected onto them, tending to the wounds they revealed, and understanding that they were never the true source of what you were searching for. Jung would say that the reason you can't stop thinking about them is because you've unknowingly given them a part of your soul. And the only way to move forward is to call that part back to you. This is what individuation is about. learning to be whole, to stop searching for missing pieces in someone else, and instead find them within yourself. So, instead of asking, why can't I stop thinking about them? Ask yourself, what part of me do I need to reclaim? Instead of forcing yourself to forget, seek to understand. Instead of waiting for closure, create it within yourself. The moment you stop seeing them as the answer, the moment you realize that the power to move on has always been in your hands, that is the moment their presence in your mind begins to fade. And this is where everything shifts, because you are no longer lost in the illusion that someone else holds the key to your peace. Now, you see the truth. The person you were searching for was never them. It was always you. There comes a moment when you understand that your thoughts are no longer about them. The memories, the longing, the unanswered questions, they were never really about that person at all. They were breadcrumbs leading you back to yourself. Carl Jung showed us that what lingers in our minds is a reflection of what lingers in our souls. And the moment you stop chasing ghosts and start embracing the lesson, the weight begins to lift. You were never haunted by them. They were calling you to heal. And now, you know exactly what you need to do. It's time to set yourself free. The path to inner peace and self-discovery is not an easy one, but it is the most rewarding journey you will ever take. It requires courage, patience, and above all, a willingness to confront what lies within. Emotional detachment is not about losing yourself. It is about reclaiming yourself. It is about understanding that your past does not define you, that your pain does not own you, and that you have the power to rewrite your story at any moment. Think about it. Every time you hold on to something that no longer serves you, you are carrying extra weight that slows you down, that drains your energy, that keeps you from evolving into the person you are meant to be. Imagine how liberating it would feel to let go, not as an act of abandonment, but as an act of self-love. Imagine standing tall, free from the burdens of the past, fully embracing the present, and walking with confidence toward your future. Jung believed that every challenge, every struggle, and every painful experience is a doorway to transformation. Nothing in life happens by accident. Every person you meet, every obstacle you face, every emotion that rises within you is part of a greater plan designed to help you grow. The universe is constantly giving you opportunities to heal, to evolve, and to step into your highest potential. But the question is, will you take those opportunities? Will you dare to face your shadows and emerge stronger, wiser, and more at peace than ever before? The moment you choose to release what no longer serves you, something magical happens. You create space for new beginnings. You open yourself up to possibilities you never imagined, to experiences that align with your true self, and to a life that feels lighter, more fulfilling, and deeply meaningful. True freedom comes not from avoiding pain, but from transforming it. And when you do, you don't just change your own life. You inspire others to do the same. So today, I invite you to take a deep breath and ask yourself, what are you ready to let go of? What emotions, beliefs, or attachments have been keeping you stuck? And most importantly, what kind of life do you want to create for yourself once you free yourself from those chains? If this message resonated with you, if you feel that you are ready to take the next step toward your personal growth, then make sure to subscribe to this channel. Here, we explore the depths of the mind, the secrets of the universe, and the wisdom of great thinkers like Carl Jung, so that together we can unlock our fullest potential. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and turn on the notifications so you never miss an episode. Remember, your transformation starts now. The power is already within you. All you have to do is embrace it. See you in the next video.
When we reflect on the life paths of influential figures like Carl Jung, it's easy to fall into a subtle but powerful trap: comparison. We see the magnitude of their contributions, the depth of their intellect, the revolutionary nature of their work, and we can't help but feel small in contrast. Their lives seem purposeful, legendary even, as if every step they took was destined to leave a lasting mark on the world. Meanwhile, Our own lives may feel mundane, even trivial, filled with routines, minor challenges, and invisible efforts. But this perception, although common, is profoundly misleading. The true meaning of a life cannot be measured solely by external achievements, public recognition, or monumental breakthroughs. Jung's life, while extraordinary in its intellectual depth, was not defined by constant triumphs. It was shaped by a lifelong inner journey, a process of exploring his psyche, confronting his fears, embracing his contradictions, and seeking truth in the depths of his unconscious mind. In truth, every meaningful life is born from this same process. Meaning is not found only in external outcomes. It is revealed in the silent victories of the soul, in the courage to face one's inner chaos, and in the willingness to grow, even when the path is unclear. Just like Jung, we each walk a personal journey, marked not by perfection, but by authenticity. You see, Carl Jung believed that the purpose of life wasn't something imposed from the outside or written in the stars. It was something discovered within. According to him, life's deepest significance lies not in what you do, but in who you are becoming. The process of becoming yourself, your true self, was, in Jung's view, the highest goal of the human experience. And that process, which he called individuation, is anything but easy. At the heart of Jungian psychology lies a powerful idea. The human psyche is not a singular, unified thing. It's a vast, layered reality composed of both the conscious and the unconscious. The conscious part of you, the ego, is the aspect you're most familiar with. It's the version of yourself you think about, talk about, and show to the world. But beyond this ego lies an immense inner world that operates beneath your awareness, the unconscious. And hidden within this unconscious realm is what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is not evil by nature. It's simply the collection of all those parts of ourselves that we've repressed, denied, or disowned over the years. Emotions we were told were bad. Desires we were taught to be ashamed of. Thoughts we feared would make others reject us. All of it gets pushed into the dark corners of our psyche. But the shadow doesn't disappear just because we ignore it. In fact, the more we deny it, the more it controls us from behind the scenes, through projections, habits, triggers, and repeated patterns we don't understand. Jung taught that real transformation only begins when we stop running from our shadow and start engaging with it consciously, because the work of integrating the shadow is the work of becoming whole. And here's the paradox. To become your highest self, you must first face your darkest self. Many people think they know themselves. They believe they have a clear picture of their identity, their values, likes, dislikes, dreams, and fears. But self-awareness, in the Jungian sense, is much deeper than that. It's not about building a stronger ego or curating a better self-image. It's about descending into the unknown territory of your inner world, confronting what lives there, and allowing the truth, however uncomfortable, to transform you. This process demands radical honesty. It requires you to ask yourself questions you might usually avoid. Why did I feel that sudden burst of envy? Why did I react with such defensiveness? Was that really my choice? Or was I just acting out of fear, habit, or wounded pride? Practices like journaling, dream analysis, and meditation can help you make contact with these deeper layers of yourself. They are tools to explore the symbols and feelings that rise from the unconscious. But the key is not just to observe, but to listen. Your shadow speaks in subtle ways, through dreams, slips of the tongue, projections onto others, emotional outbursts, and even your attractions and aversions. Jung emphasized that integrating the shadow doesn't mean indulging it or letting it take over your life. If you discover rage, resentment, or selfishness within yourself, that doesn't mean you are those things entirely. It means you're human. The goal is not to become pure or perfect, but to become real, to accept that light and darkness both exist within you, and that only by owning all parts of yourself can you live authentically. Your purpose, according to Jung, is deeply personal. It won't look like anyone else's, and it won't be handed to you from the outside. It must be unearthed from within. Through this long, sometimes painful, often liberating journey toward wholeness. This is why Jung said, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." Awakening doesn't come from following someone else's path. It comes from walking your own, fully conscious of the terrain. The path to purpose isn't linear. It will take you through confusion, contradiction, and complexity. You may not always know where you're going, but every moment you choose truth over illusion, growth over comfort, awareness over avoidance. You are getting closer. So if you ever find yourself feeling small, lost, or insignificant compared to someone like Carl Jung, remember this. Jung himself was once just a man with questions, doubts, and a deep yearning to understand. His greatness didn't come from having all the answers. It came from his willingness to go inward, to explore, and to evolve. And that journey is available to you too. You don't need to be famous, or brilliant, or revolutionary. You only need to be honest with yourself, because your soul is already guiding you. The question is, are you willing to listen? One of the most subtle and yet most powerful ways the shadow reveals itself is through judgment. We judge others for traits we ourselves refuse to acknowledge. It's almost paradoxical. The very qualities that irritate us most in others often mirror hidden aspects within us that we've repressed, denied, or disowned. Carl Jung referred to this phenomenon as projection. In essence, we're not just reacting to the other person. We're reacting to a disowned part of ourselves that is being reflected back like a mirror. Think about that for a moment. Every time someone frustrates you, every time a behavior strikes a nerve deep inside you, it's an opportunity, an invitation, a mirror. What if the reason you're so disturbed isn't because of who they are, but because of what you haven't yet dared to confront in yourself? Jung suggested that those who are quickest to condemn selfishness often harbor their own suppressed self-interest. Those who lose patience with others might be silently battling their own inner chaos. The external conflict is often just a projection of an internal one. So next time someone bothers you deeply, pause. Ask yourself, is there something about this that reminds me of me? That single question can begin to crack the surface of your unconscious. And the moment you choose to reflect, instead of react, you take your first step into the transformative work Jung called shadow integration. But where does this process really begin? It starts in silence, in stillness, with a pen, a journal, and the courage to ask the questions no one else can answer for you. Questions like, what am I hiding from others? What am I hiding from myself? This practice isn't glamorous. It's uncomfortable. But it's where self-discovery truly begins. And the more honestly you engage with your inner world, the more you move toward authenticity, toward wholeness, toward a life that feels real. Because let's be clear, this isn't about perfection. Jung never advocated for being good in the traditional sense. In fact, He once said, "I don't aspire to be a good person. I aspire to be a whole person." That means accepting everything that makes you human, including the parts you've been taught to reject: your jealousy, your pride, your fear, your rage. They're not your enemies. They're unacknowledged pieces of you, buried in the shadow, waiting not to be erased, but to be understood. Of course, the moment you begin this journey, something strange might happen. You may feel worse before you feel better. Because once you've seen your shadow, you can't pretend it's not there. You can't unsee it. You can't go back to the comfort of ignorance. That moment of recognition can be jarring. You realize that the version of yourself you've presented to the world is only a fragment of the whole, and it's tempting to retreat, to deny, to push it all back down. But repression is not healing. Repression is delay. And what you push down does not disappear. It grows stronger in silence. The more you ignore a part of yourself, the more power it gains in the darkness. Anger, laziness, envy, if denied, they don't vanish. They wait. And they tend to emerge when you're least prepared, when you're tired, vulnerable, or overwhelmed. That's when the shadow speaks. That's when it erupts. And when it does, it often does damage. Not because those traits are inherently evil, but because they've been left unchecked and unconscious for too long. You see, the person who believes, "I never get angry," might one day explode in uncontrollable rage. The one who insists, "I'm never lazy," may suddenly crash from exhaustion, unable to function. So what's the alternative? What can you do with these darker impulses once you recognize them? You work with them. You give them a name, a face, a voice. You stop trying to eliminate them and instead begin the lifelong process of integrating them. Because each piece of the shadow carries something valuable: a message, a warning, a lesson. Anger, for example, isn't always destructive. When handled consciously, it becomes a boundary, a force of clarity, a protector of what matters to you. But when buried, it festers. It turns into resentment, or worse, it erupts without warning. So the question becomes, when is an emotion trying to guide you? And when is it trying to control you? When do you wear your social mask, your persona? And when do you let it fall? These aren't questions with easy answers, but they're worth asking every day. Because the more you sit with your emotions, instead of labeling them as good or bad, the more you begin to understand their deeper roots. Take envy, for example. It's uncomfortable, but it's not useless. Envy can reveal what you desire most. It can point toward goals you've been afraid to pursue. Laziness, too, can be misunderstood. Sometimes, what we call laziness is actually resistance. Resistance to a life that doesn't align with who we really are. Or it's a cry for rest, a need to slow down and reconnect with what's truly meaningful. Even impatience can serve you. When balanced, it becomes decisiveness, urgency, the push to move forward and stop waiting for permission. The truth is, there is wisdom in every emotion, if you have the willingness to listen. But integration doesn't happen overnight. It's not a one-time realization. It's a daily commitment, a willingness to sit with discomfort, to own your contradictions, to hold complexity without shame. You don't let your shadow control you, but you don't deny it either. You give it space. You learn from it. And over time, it becomes part of you, not as a threat, but as a source of strength. Because your shadow was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to complete you. And only when you accept and embrace the darkness within can you begin to transform it. That's the paradox of healing. The parts of yourself you once tried to hide, may become the very tools that set you free. This is the heart of deep self-knowledge, the ability to look at yourself fully and not turn away, to say, "This is me, all of me, the light and the dark, the noble and the flawed." And when you arrive at that place, when you stop pretending and start integrating, you no longer chase perfection. You seek wholeness. And with that wholeness comes clarity, peace, inner alignment. You start to understand what you truly want, what you truly need, and most importantly, who you truly are. Shadow work never truly ends. It's a continuous process, a spiral that always has the potential to go deeper. Every time you grow a little more, every time you choose to act with greater awareness, you're adding meaning to your life. As Carl Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." In other words, knowing yourself is important, but it must be proven through your actions. The purpose of your life is not found only in thoughts or intentions, but in what you do every day. What you do with what you know about yourself. That's what really matters. That's why it's not enough to understand your shadow or your unconscious. It's not enough to have good intentions or want to change. You must act. And acting means no longer living reactively, just responding to what happens, and instead beginning to take initiative. Rather than waiting for someone to reach out, you take the first step. Rather than hoping for a promotion, you make a plan and pursue it. Instead of waiting for life to magically make sense, you begin building a meaningful life through your own actions. Though it may seem simple, this is where most people get stuck. Today, most of us live in reactive mode, even those already exploring their shadow or working on themselves. And of course, that inner work is a powerful first step, but it's not enough. If you don't bring it into action, you remain trapped in a cycle that seems like progress, but actually keeps you in place. After doing deep inner work, it's common to think, "Now I can rest." But staying still for too long is what anchors you to a meaningless life. The key is to keep walking, to keep challenging yourself, and to keep moving out of stagnation. Once you've taken real steps to explore your shadow and improve based on what you found, it's also important to go further, take additional steps, and live with intention. Ask yourself regularly, what do I truly believe in? Do I have a spiritual practice or core values that guide my life? What moral principles matter to me? How do I behave daily? What do I want to achieve this year and in the next 5 years? How do I want to contribute to the world? What do I expect from others? You can write these questions down, meditate on them, or let them guide your daily reflections. The answers will give you clear clues about the kinds of actions you need to take. Maybe, for instance, you dream of becoming a published author. And yes, many people share that desire, but most do very little to make it real. They wait for inspiration, for a quieter time, or believe the book will write itself someday. But that mindset is still reactive. It's like saying, when the perfect moment arrives, it'll just flow. But it doesn't work that way. Someone who truly wants to be a writer begins to act like one now. A committed aspiring author writes regularly, with or without inspiration. When blocked, they seek exercises or advice to keep going. They finish stories not just through motivation, but through discipline. And then they actively reach out to people in the publishing world, such as literary agents. Of course, not everyone finds meaning in professional goals. Maybe your purpose is more abstract or spiritual, and that's perfectly valid too. You might, for example, wish to have a positive impact on future generations. That can take many forms. You could become a parent, a teacher, Start a youth organization, work as a political advisor for young people, or support social causes in your community. The important thing is not the exact how, but which path resonates with you, and above all, what actions you're going to take to make it real. Constantly asking questions about your values and beliefs gives you clarity about what truly matters to you. But once you know, you must act. Because yes, it's possible to survive living reactively, but you will never find meaning that way. True meaning demands action. Carl Jung put it very clearly. Where your fear is, there is your task. One of the main reasons people live reactively is not laziness or lack of effort. In most cases, it's fear. To act is to risk, and risk is scary. If you have an idea for a book, you have to risk being disappointed with what you write. And if you finish the book, you'll face the possibility of multiple rejections before it's published. Every meaningful action carries the chance that things won't go as hoped. That's why you need courage. Courage doesn't come from the absence of fear. It's not about never feeling afraid. Fear shouldn't be ignored or repressed, because if you do, it will return to your shadow and begin to control you from within. Instead of running from fear, you must acknowledge it. So, whenever you face an important decision or a scary action, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? And if it does happen, how would I handle it? Often, fear shrinks when you look at it head-on and prepare for what's likely, not what's extreme. Don't confuse preparation with anxiety or overthinking. To prepare means to be ready for real scenarios, not to get lost in catastrophic fantasies. For example, if your goal is to publish a book, prepare for rejection letters, or even for no response at all. But also, prepare to keep writing, to self-publish, or to meet a literary agent who believes in your work. Don't waste energy imagining that someone will steal your idea, humiliate you, or that the whole world will laugh. Those scenarios, besides being unlikely, only hold you back. When you examine your fear and prepare realistically, much of that anxiety dissolves. Fear may never disappear completely, but once you've done everything you can to face it, the only thing left is to jump. Take the step. Go all in. At its core, courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward despite it. No one who ever achieved something meaningful in life did it by avoiding what scared them. As Carl Jung said, where your fear is, there is your task. And when you discover what scares you most, you also discover what could give your life the most meaning. In one of his most powerful quotes, Jung said, "Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness." What does that mean? That even if you do everything right, know yourself, grow, act, face your fears, it doesn't mean life will be perfect. No one has a perfect life. In fact, the most influential and admired people are often the ones who suffered most and took the biggest risks. Pain and difficulty are not the opposite of purpose. They are an essential part of it. Accepting the hard times, the disappointments, the failures, that's necessary to build a meaningful life. Because if only victory existed, how would you recognize success? If you never felt sadness, how would you appreciate joy? There can be no light without shadow. So every time something bad happens, change the narrative. Learn to see misfortune and mistakes as growth opportunities. Every time something shakes you, it's showing you a part of yourself you didn't know. And that alone is part of your purpose. No one realizes they need to be more grounded without first failing by being too idealistic. No one learns they're strong and resilient until life tests them. Say your novel was rejected by every publisher, or you quit a stable job to study again, and it didn't work out. Sure, it may hurt, but now you have more context to appreciate the good that comes next. You learned something, and that learning gives your life more depth. For Jung, the meaning of life isn't found in achieving a final goal. It's in everything you do to try to get there. Because even if you don't reach it, the journey already transformed you. Purpose is not a trophy earned at the end. It's in how you walk, the choices you make, and the honesty with which you face yourself. That means even if you don't become a famous author or public figure, your life can be full of purpose. Every day, you choose to act authentically. The simple act of trying, of rising again and again, of building something with intention, is already a powerful way to honor your existence. It's in those quiet, invisible, intimate moments that real meaning is created. Giving your life purpose isn't something achieved once. It's a continuous task. There will always be more to discover about yourself. New goals, new paths, and yes, you'll keep experiencing joys and disappointments, victories and setbacks. But it's that exact blend that makes your life so unique. That unrepeatable combination of light and shadow, of effort and stillness, of discipline and faith. That's what gives your story its worth. Always, always honor the fact that you tried. Even if the outcome wasn't perfect, even if it didn't match your expectations, the attempt itself carries meaning. It carries weight. It is a sign that something inside you dared to move forward, despite the uncertainty, despite the fear. According to Carl Jung, the journey toward wholeness is not measured by success or flawlessness, but by the courage it takes to face the unknown aspects of the self. The psyche doesn't seek perfection. It seeks integration. It seeks to make sense of our inner contradictions, to unify the fragments of our being, to bring the unconscious into the light. So, yes, honor the fact that you showed up for your life, even on the days when you didn't feel like enough. Honor the small steps, the invisible battles, the quiet resilience. You may think they don't matter, but they do. Those are the moments that shape you. Those are the moments that call forth your soul. And above all, choose gratitude. Not the kind that is forced or performative, but the quiet, sincere kind. The kind that notices what is already here, right now. The people who stayed, the breath in your lungs, the silence that holds you when the world gets loud. Be thankful for the brief moments of calm, the fleeting glimpses of clarity, the unexpected bursts of laughter that remind you of who you are. Even if you feel like you've barely made progress, even if you're still struggling, don't overlook what you've already done. Don't dismiss the ground you've covered just because the mountain still looms ahead. Gratitude transforms perception. It opens the eyes of the soul. When we shift from lack to presence, we begin to see that the very things we once took for granted were, in fact, the foundation of our strength. And remember this, your life has meaning, not because of grand achievements, not because of titles or recognition, but because you continue to offer your best, even when no one sees it, even when it seems like the world doesn't notice, even when the voice in your head tries to convince you that it's not enough. Your willingness to keep going, to keep learning, to keep reaching inward, that is your purpose unfolding. Because purpose isn't something you chase. It's not some destination you'll arrive at one day when all the conditions are perfect. It's not waiting for you in some imagined future. It is already here, in how you choose to live, how you choose to respond, how you choose to show up. Purpose is a state of being. It's the decision to live consciously, to recognize your patterns, to face your fears, to name your shadows, to act with honesty and heart, and to create each day, not from what's missing, but from what you already hold within. That alone, living with that level of presence and authenticity, makes you rare. It makes you powerful. It makes you extraordinary. So don't measure your worth by what you've yet to achieve. Measure it by your depth, your awareness, your capacity to stay open when it would be easier to shut down. That is the real path of transformation. Jung believed that the soul's journey is one of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. And that path is never linear. It's messy, it's complex, but it's yours. And every step you take, every honest step, is sacred. If something inside you stirred while listening to this, if a quiet voice within you whispered, "This is what I needed," then honor that. That's your inner truth speaking. That's your soul remembering. Help this message reach others who might also be searching for meaning in silence, who might be wrestling with invisible storms. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Activate the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And before you go, pause with me for a moment. What did you feel when these words touched your heart? Where in your life are you longing for peace? Where have you been seeking it lately? Your response is more than a comment. It's part of the dialogue. It's part of the shared experience. So speak from your center. Speak from your truth. I'm listening, and I'm walking this path with you. This is only the beginning. There's so much more ahead, so much more waiting to be discovered within you. Stay with the journey. Stay with your soul, and I'll see you soon.